Eagle 95.1 WUPN Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your stand. If you can play it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1 and online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 WUPN in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this Monday, April 8th, 2019. We'll be back at our sponsor, the Wicked Sister, next Monday night for our next broadcast of The Game. And we will have on the show tonight Butch Davis from Butch On Sports, who will get us up to date on what's going on in the Detroit sports scene. And then an hour two for the roundtable, we'll have Dave McCaig, host of the Game Sports Show from Soo, Ontario, and E.J. Russell, who will be on the Riverside Toyota hot seat from Escanaba, Michigan. Now, you can find all versions of The Game, including this one from the Wicked Sister or from Eagle 95.1, along with Dave's shows Tuesday night from Icebreakers Bar and Grill inside the John Rhodes Community Center in Soo, Ontario. Wednesday night, Sports Center Bar and Grill, also from Soo, Ontario. And Thursday night, Northern Superior Brewery, also in Soo, Ontario, along with Butch On Sports and his shows, and my segments with Paul Van Wagner on ESPN Blacksburg, along with Soo Eagles hockey, Brimley Bays basketball, Soo High Blue Devil hockey, and more. You can find it at thegamesportshow.com, thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or if you are a YouTube person, just look up the Scott Nason channel. You can also find us on Instagram. Just look up The Game Sports Show. Also on Facebook. So give us a like. Give us a tweet, re-like, whatever it is. I'm not on Instagram, so I don't know what goes on there. And I'm definitely not on Facebook, so I certainly don't worry about what goes on there. But the Game Sports Show does, and I know a lot of our listeners are on there, so we appreciate each and every one of you. We're going to have our first segment cover the world of local sports. Lots going on, of course. We do not have the spring outdoor sports season going on and anywhere, at least in northern Michigan. I was downstate this weekend. We'll talk more about that later. And the snow kind of ended around the West Branch area, so I think anything south of Grayling, you could probably get in maybe a track meet or a baseball game, maybe a softball game, at least in the next week or so. Not quite here in the Eastern Upper Peninsula. We still have a long ways to go before we get any outdoor activities as far as high school softball, high school soccer, high school baseball, track and field. And in the forecast later on this week, yes, more snow. Apparently Thursday, Friday, we could be getting anywhere from 3 to 8 inches of snow. Let's hope that's fake news. My goodness sakes, it's the second week of April. We want to get the spring sports season underway. So we don't have much to talk about as far as high school sports, but we have a lot of hockey to talk about and some other sports. So let's get right to it. Let's start off with the Soo Greyhounds. Boy, oh boy, have they put themselves in a deep hole in their Ontario Hockey League Western Conference semifinal against the Saginaw Spirit, as they lost Game 1 in Saginaw on Friday by a 4-1 count. So you kind of knew going into Game 2 in Saginaw that the Hounds really needed to try to grab that one, because it makes it tough to win 4 games in 5, which is what they would have had to do if they lost on yesterday. Well, guess what? They're going to have to do that, because they didn't only lose, they got embarrassed, and I don't think there's any way you can spin it that you could say otherwise. The Soo Greyhounds lost Game 2 against Saginaw on Sunday by the score of 10-1. As Matthew Villalta's playoff struggles continued, he gave up 7 goals on 21 shots. He was pulled twice, and, well, he didn't get a whole lot of help in front of him as the Hounds basically didn't show up on Sunday, losing by the score of 10-1. So the Hounds find themselves in a very tough position now as they are going to have to win 4 of 5 games to try to take this series. Game 3 will be tomorrow night, Tuesday night at the Memorial Gardens. I'll be there for Game 4, which is set on Thursday. And the Hounds are going to have to figure something out. And if you recall last year, the Hounds played Saginaw in the first round series, and, well, that's when Don Cherry made his famous hot dog comment and the hockey gods will find a way to get back at you sort of thing. I'm not saying the hockey gods had anything to do with a 10-1 win, but you can bet that there are a few players on that Saginaw team that weren't too upset that the score margin was where it was. And I got to be honest, I don't think they should have been upset. That wasn't very smart by the Hounds, kind of celebrating and, I'll say it, hot dogging last year. But that was last year. This is this year. And the Hounds are going to have to figure out how to come out and make a effort that is worthy of a team that many people thought could win the West. Going into the season, many of us on this show and on this, the panel that we'll have later on thought maybe the Hounds might be better suited for a rebuild mode because the cupboard's kind of bare as far as draft picks, but General Manager Kyle Raftis, who's obviously a lot smarter than I am as far as the hockey GM duties and whereabouts, they decided that they were pretty much going to stand pat and try to advance this team that currently is underperforming in this series. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be down 2-0 to Saginaw, but a 10-1 loss, really, you scratch your head. And I know there's lots of media reports that the Hounds still are very confident, and that's a good thing. They want to be confident, but, boy, pressure on them in Game 3. And you know those Hounds fans at the Memorial Gardens, they're not ones to sugarcoat things. If they're not feeling the team's giving an effort, they will let them know, and that's why I think the Soo Greyhounds fans have some of the best fans in all of sports around here because, you know what, they're tough, and it's a professional-like atmosphere in the Ontario Hockey League. So the Soo Greyhounds, they're going to have to figure out how to try to turn this series around. They got to win both this week at the Memorial Gardens. Again, Game 3 on Tuesday. I'll be there for Game 4 on Thursday. Looking at the other Ontario Hockey League semifinals, well, everybody is 2-0 up, and all the top seeds are winning, much like we saw in the first round. London up 2-0 in their series against Guelph, winning Game 2 yesterday afternoon by the score of 7-0. Game 3 tonight in Guelph. In the East, pretty much going according to form. Ottawa 6-0 in the playoffs, as is London. They defeated Sudbury by the score of 5-0 yesterday. They're up 2-0 in that Eastern semifinal. Game 3 will be in Sudbury on Tuesday. And Niagara, the Ice Dogs, also up 2-0 in their Eastern semifinal over Oshawa. They won yesterday by the score of 5-1. So Game 3 Tuesday night in Oshawa. So all the top seeds doing well in the Ontario Hockey League. Also happening this weekend was the Ontario Hockey League draft, and the Soo Greyhounds in the 2019 OHL Priority Selection Draft had the 18th overall pick in the first round, and they picked up defenseman Jacob Holmes. He's a 6'1", 175 defenseman who was captain this past year with the York Simcoe Express Minor Midget Hockey Club. 33 regular season games. He tallied 7 goals, 10 assists, good for 17 points. He also won a silver medal with Team Ontario at the 2019 Canada Winter Games. The scouting report says he's a mobile defender that can skate with anyone. He loves to jump up and join or even sometimes lead the rush and uses his skating ability to get back and cover his position well. He also has good puck skills and vision from the back end. Jacob makes good outlet passes and transitions the puck well in the neutral zone. His mobility allows him to move along the offensive blue line well, and he finds the open lane to the net well. Again, that from the Ontario Hockey League Priority Selection Media Guide. The Greyhounds made other selections. They had quite a few in the later rounds. They didn't have a second-round pick. They picked up a left winger in the third round, Mark Boudreau out of Toronto. The fourth round, a centerman, Jordan D'Intino out of London. Fifth round, a right winger, Owen Parsons out of Waterloo. The sixth round, another defenseman, Luke Bruskowski out of Kitchener. Seventh round, Coulter Taylor. He's a goaltender out of North Central. Eighth round, Luke Hames, a center out of Rockland. And in the ninth round, Rise Chittenden. He's a left winger out of Mississauga. And then they did have some other selections as well, going all the way to the 15th round. And one other local note, Tyler Dunbar from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Flint Firebirds. So congratulations to him. Of course, he's the son of Chris and Alan Dunbar. Chris Dunbar, the former athletic director at Lake Superior State University. Moving on to the NOJHL in the Western Finals. Well, the Soo Thunderbirds won both games in Rayside during games 3 and 4 and took a 3-1 series lead going into Saturday's game at home. And I think most people thought that series was over, but the Rayside Balfour Canadians said not so fast, as 2 goals by defenseman Ethan Laval helped the Canadians to a 5-3 win over the Soo Thunderbirds in Game 5 of the West Division Final in the NOJHL at the GFL Memorial Gardens. So now Game 6 is tonight at Rayside, and if the Thunderbirds win, they will win that series 4-2 and advance to the NOJHL Final, where they will take on the Hearst Lumberjacks. Hearst had no trouble against Powassan, sweeping that series. If Rayside Balfour wins tonight, Game 7 would be Wednesday night at the John Rhodes Community Center, and the winner of the NOJHL Championship will advance to the Dudley Hewitt Cup in Cochrane, which will be later this month. One other hockey note, this weekend marked the 1-year anniversary of the tragedy involving the Humboldt Broncos junior hockey squad, as 29 lives were lost and families were forever changed with that terrible accident, and community that's still recovering. And if you have a chance to watch an amazing documentary, one was made, it's both on the U.S. side and the Canadian side. It's called 29 Forever, narrated by Wayne Gretzky. You can go to my Twitter page, snason2013, if you want to check out the link to the TSN site. But it just gives an update on what's going on in Humboldt. Of course, that organization did continue after the just terrible events which happened last year with the bus accident, and it's an amazing documentary. Bring the Kleenexes. It's one that you're going to want to have handy, those Kleenexes, because it's very emotional seeing just the impact that has had, and it just puts everything in perspective. We talk a lot about sports, and sometimes these things seem so dramatic, but you know what? An event like this puts everything in perspective. Life is too precious, and make sure you enjoy every moment, because you never know what is down the road. And so when you get a chance, check out 29 Forever. It's tough to watch, but I think it's important for everyone, especially if you're a sports fan, especially if you have kids, or these communities that take in, especially in the community of hockey, these players that are basically being raised by these billet parents, and just to see the impact this has on different communities, it's very emotional. So check out 29 Forever, marking the anniversary of the terrible Humboldt Broncos tragedy, which happened last year around this time. Moving on to Lake Superior State University athletics, lots going on there. First of all, the men's tennis team was on the road this weekend. They started off in Davenport and fell by the score of 5-2. And then the Lakers would win on Saturday at Purdue Northwest, also by a 5-2 count. The Lakers won 2 of the 3 doubles matches played in that one. And they also had some success in singles. Number 1 singles, Christian Tanetta, he won in his match along with the number 3 seed. And so the Lakers getting more victories overall in men's tennis, and they'll be at home this weekend for their final 2 home matches of the season, as they will take on Ashland and Wayne State Saturday and Sunday. All matches will begin at 10 a.m. at the Student Activity Center on the campus of Lake Superior State University, and admission is free. So, hey, you know what? You're not going to be doing much outside next weekend. Go check out some Laker tennis. Always fun. Fun watching those matches. They're fast, especially that indoor surface in the SAC. Very fast, and so check out some Laker men's tennis. The Laker men's and women's track and field team, they were on the road this past weekend at the Spartan Invitational on Friday and Saturday. On the women's side, sophomore Riley Collins, she recorded a personal best in the 400 dash. Sophomore Brittany Ryan, she also had a personal best in the shot put. Alexa Pacino, a sophomore, ran a personal best in the 1,500-meter run. Freshman Leah Bell, She had a personal best in the 5,000-meter run for the second consecutive week. Alyssa Mumford, a sophomore, also a personal best, competing in the 400 hurdles, while junior Sarah Ostwald recorded a season best in the discus. And so lots of Laker women doing well, along with the men, as sophomore David Mitter garnished a third-place finish in the seeded heat of the 5,000-meter run with a personal best time and the second fastest time of his collegiate career. Junior Roger Wilford had personal bests in the shot put, javelin. Garrett Smith, a senior, improved on his personal best in the 1,500-meter run. Sophomore Peter Shamba had a personal best in the 1,500-meter run, and Andrew Giddens, a freshman, also improved his personal best in the 110-meter hurdle. So Laker track and field team doing well and getting some personal best time, a bunch of them this past weekend. The Lakers will be back in action at the Al Owens Classic. That's at Grand Valley State University in Allendale, April 19th and 20th. Laker volleyball announced 3 new signings and a couple local signings, including Rachel Beelan, a outside hitter from Rudyard, Michigan, who played last year in a very successful Rudyard Bulldogs volleyball program. She was all first EUP along with first team Straits Area Conference, academic All-State, also honorable mention by the Volleyball Coaches Association. Her team won district championships in 2017 and 2018 along with the regional championship in 2017. And there'll be another Wilhelms on the Laker volleyball team, as Kayla Wilhelms, a defensive specialist from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, is going to join her sister Katja Wilhelms, who will be a sophomore this upcoming season. Kayla served as team captain in her senior year and was named to the Petoskey All-Tournament team, first team All-Conference and All-Region, and she was also academic All-State. Riley Asenga from McBain, another Lakers signing. And they have a bunch of signings, and before you know it, we'll be talking fall sports. We want to have spring and summer before we get to fall sports, but just some to look out for, as now you'll have quite a few locals playing on the Laker women's volleyball team. And one other local sports note, 11 players from the Eastern Upper Peninsula were selected to participate in June's Upper Peninsula All-Star Football Game, which will be held at the Uper Dome in Marquette, Michigan. There's 2 teams, black and red. The black team will include area players Tay Kate and Brendan Kreiderman of Sioux High, Andrew Blanchard of Engadine, Brandon Christensen of Newberry, Greg Paquin of St. Ignace, Chase Warner of Pickford, and Max Zerp of Rudyard. Players on the red team include Jalen James of Newberry, Hunter Lippinan of Brimley, Jaron Masuga of Cedarville, and Jonah Miller of Engadine. Pickford's Gardy Kangas, he's an assistant coach on the red team. The game is scheduled for Saturday, June 29th, 1 p.m. at the Superior Dome in Marquette, as players from all across the Upper Peninsula are part of this showdown. It's a fun event. It's a week-long event, as they have lots of things happening that week. They have a canned food drive along with Media Day, Skills Challenge, and more. And proceeds to the game will be donated to the Beacon House, the UP Sports Hall of Fame, and to Brimley and North Dickinson schools. How about that? So the UP football game happening June 29th. And we don't have any other high school sports to talk about because we need the snow to melt. And we don't need 5 to 6 inches of snow predicted later on this week. I hope that's fake news, to be quite honest. We're going to take a break here on the game. When we come back, we're going to talk to Butch Davis from Butch On Sports, who will give us an update on all the things going on in Detroit, including, well, maybe not in Detroit, but in East Lansing, Michigan State falling to Texas Tech in the Final Four in men's basketball, the championship game later on tonight, Virginia and Texas Tech. Tough ending for Sparty. Texas Tech's good, though. I mean, Michigan State did not play their best game, but you got to give a lot of credit to that Red Raiders defense. They held Michigan to 44 points, and they held Michigan State to 51, and they advanced to take on Virginia tonight. We'll also talk about the Detroit Pistons. Boy, they are hanging on to the last playoff spot in the East. Big loss yesterday at home to Charlotte. They still just need a win to clinch the playoffs, but are they going to go anywhere in the playoffs? Right now, hard to say. Well, a team that's not going into the playoffs, the Detroit Red Wings, ended their season with a loss to Buffalo, but a big night for them on Tuesday. The NHL Draft Lottery, they have a 9.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick, Will they get it? Who knows? Jeff Blashill, he's going to be back for a couple years. We'll talk to Butch about that and more. And the Detroit Tigers. How about them Tigers? The first place Detroit Tigers. I made an impromptu trip downstate this weekend and got to see Saturday's game in sunshine and 65 degrees. I actually have a sunburn, believe it or not, on my back, of my neck, and my arm. And the Tigers, a grand slam in that one. They sweep the Kansas City Royals, 7-3 on the season. The Tigers didn't have low expectations. They had no expectations, and I love how this team is playing. Out of the gates, they're playing hard. They're getting outstanding starting pitching and very good relief pitching. And they're not even hitting a whole lot. They did a little bit this weekend, but very interested to hear what Butch says. He was there for opening day, and I got to give a shout-out to the staff and everybody at the Detroit Tigers. I was able to get a couple media passes on Saturday for myself and my contributor to the show, my girlfriend Becky, and we had a ball. We got to go on the field, in the press box, and we were just treated so well by the entire organization. And so a big shout-out for them to making that happen. And hey, this show's getting places. We're getting media passes for the Tigers. We appreciate that. And we don't want to forget about Wrestlemania. We got lots to talk about with Butch. So we're going to take a break here on the game. When we come back, we will talk to Butch Davis from Butch On Sports here on the game on Eagle 95.1.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show wants to thank its original home, partner, and sponsor since 2015, Sports Center Bar and Grill, named the Soo's best sports bar for 3 years in a row. Sports Center Bar and Grill is located on 624 Wellington Street West in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Make sure to come on down to Sports Center to enjoy the great atmosphere with great cold beverages available, including those delicious Molson products. Don't forget about their famous 75-cent wing nights on Wednesdays. They're truly the best wings in town. Like and follow Sports Center on Facebook at Sports Center SSM. We look forward to seeing you today. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Soo's best sports bar.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and special edition home to the game, Silver Creek Golf Course, located on 104 Bellow Lake Road, Garden River, Ontario. And also shout out thank you to Silver Creek GM Jamie Henderson. Silver Creek Golf Course has many specials to offer for 18 holes, 9 holes, and even Twilight Deal specials. It does not matter what your level of golf game is, it is a must to enjoy the scenic course, memorable experiences that Silver Golf Course offers. Silver Creek also offers a Thursday wing night for you to enjoy food after a stellar time on the course. You can book your tee time by phone or online at golfsilvercreek.com. Silver Creek Golf Course, where all are welcome to play.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Play Museum right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company, it's a northern thing.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 WUPN in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And our next guest has arrived via Metro Detroit. His name is Butch Davis. And you can hear more of him on his own show, Butch On Sports, which is found on the podcast page, Simply Butch 2, that's TOO.podomatic.com, or you can go to our website, to find his show, Butch On Sports, as Butch joins us each and every week to talk about what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports scene. Butch, I hear you're feeling a little bit better. You're getting more mobile and around. How you doing tonight, my friend?
A little bit mobile and whatnot here. I guess the tone of the tune was Thursday when you got to get all them guts together there to get it, to do some things you haven't done in a while. And I think I passed the test, and things are going well from that point on there.
We are very happy to hear about that, Butch, and always happy to have you on our show each and every week. Butch, I thought we'd start with maybe the not-so-good things going on in Detroit and Michigan area sports and work our way towards the real good things. Let's start with basketball. A tough weekend for both Michigan State and the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk more about this, I'm sure, in hour two, Butch, talking about the NCAA men's basketball final tonight featuring Virginia and Texas Tech. Texas Tech knocked off Michigan State on Saturday by the score of 61-51. Matt Mooney, 22 points, 8 of 16 shooting for Texas Tech. Michigan State just couldn't get over the hump against a very good Texas Tech defense. Good season for Michigan State, Butch, but boy, they found out what Michigan found out a couple rounds before. That Texas Tech team, boy, they can play some defense, can't they?
Oh, yeah. You talk to everybody and you tell them, as long as you play good defense, everything can go your way. You always got an opportunity. I preached that on the show on numerous occasions, when we talking about other teams and whatnot there, and that proves it. They took care of both Michigans single-handedly, and for that matter, the rest of the people they play very handily by just playing defense. They're not a prolific shooting team there, but their defense is sound, and it has taken them this far to a championship game against Virginia.
Talking about Virginia and Texas Tech, both teams have never won an NCAA title. What do you look for in tonight's game? Defense obviously being the first thing I think that pops into a lot of people's mind, but what are you looking for in tonight's game?
Well, nothing.
Me too. Raw, right?
Be truthful about it here. Both home teams are out of the ranking there. The favorite team that should have been there is not there. I'll be flipping the channel between Monday Night Raw and just seeing the score of the particular game there. But again, it's I honestly, if I don't wait till the news come on late night and get the score, then I'll be happy. It's really not too much I can say. May the best team win.
I'm on the same boat there, Butch. Let's move on to another basketball team struggling. The Detroit Pistons needed a victory on Sunday to clinch a playoff spot against the Charlotte Hornets, and it was the Hornets all over the Pistons, winning by the score of 104-91. Kemba Walker, 31 points for the Hornets. So the Pistons right now hanging on to that 8th seed in the East. Their record 39-41, and they have 2 games left. Tomorrow night at home against Memphis, and then at the New York Knicks on Wednesday. Butch, boy, you talked about it on your show last night, and I really thought you hit the nail on the head, talking about how, not every Piston is giving a full effort, and it's starting to show in some of these losses. The Pistons, will they make the playoffs? More than likely, but, just not finishing this season well. What's going on with those guys?
Well, you thought when the trade was issued, when they got rid of some people and brought some people on, that, some people got a message in their head that they had to do better, and they did. You saw Reggie Jackson give a little bit better effort. Ish Smith was just coming off an injury. He gave more or less a better effort and a little bit more conscious instead of playing a one-man game, getting involved, passing it around, getting it to people who are open, making some decent shots. But the rest of the cast and characters there, go lightly, go whatever, and Brown, and the list goes on and on and on. They're just not what the Pistons need. Reggie Jackson is one of the culprits right now. After the season is over, the Pistons need to look very hard. And, Ish Smith, I can understand. He's coming off the bench. He's giving some electric. Hopefully people can build around it. His role is defined. Other than his defense is very poor, his role is defined. But Reggie Jackson was brought in there to be somewhat a leader, a catalyst there. This is the man who, in Oklahoma City, when he was taking the reins from Russell Russell from that particular team when he was injured. Soon as Russell came on back, he felt he should be starting and whatnot there. That's where it spurred Stan Van Gundy to make a trade to get this young man and bring him to Detroit. And, we felt that way, that he was a better player than Russell Westbrook, then though he proved it here in Detroit. He has not done that. He is far from doing that. It is ugly, it is nasty, it is indecent the way he's taken this team's money and hasn't given up his all. He's been injured 2 years. You give somewhat a pass on that, but how injured was you to give up a decent effort? And, right now he's not injured. He's not giving a decent effort. He's not coming in there every single doggone day and giving his all. Griffin is injured. You could tell that if you watched the game yesterday. You could tell that high and wide that he was not 100%. Had no business out there. But yet and still, when all these are the things that you're turning against with a coach, and I got some nice things to say about him as well. Just hold on for a second. But it stinks, okay? Andre Drummond can only do so doggone much, okay? And he has showed himself every single year to bring himself up to a level that of improvement that, you can be proud of there. The coach, on the other hand here, I don't know how much play he has in players and personnel, but something has to be done. He needs to stop choking up players and giving the fans, this player is this, that, and the other. And when the chips hit the fan, they gave him nothing but gas, okay? And it's smelling still. Right now it should be lingering in the Upper Peninsula there where you can get the fans out and whatnot here. And hopefully it doesn't linger too long. But I tell you again, he holds a lot of blame and responsibility here too. This team is not ready to get out there and play every single night. Whatever his speech is, he needs to change it on up or find another way to do it. But the big thing is right now, once the season is over, the Pistons need to find some personnel. Number one, who wants to be here. Trey Burke is out there, okay? He's a good guard. It's the guard we should have had in the first place when we had that draft. Instead, you got somebody that you don't even use any doggone more. It is ridiculous how this team has done their business, and they need to clean it up.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's continue to cover the Detroit teams. Let's go talk about the Detroit Red Wings. As we alluded to last week, Coach Jeff Blashill will be back next season. He received a 2-year contract extension last week. The Wings will not be in the playoffs. They lost their season finale 7-1 at home to Buffalo. The Wings finishing with 74 points and will have the 4th best odds to snag the top pick in the NHL draft lottery, which will be held tomorrow night in Toronto. A 9.5% chance of getting that vaunted first spot and a chance at Mr. Hughes, who plays just down the road in Plymouth. Butch, the Wings did finish the season strong despite that loss on Saturday. They seem to have a lot of confidence in where this team is headed. What are your thoughts on the Wings going into the draft lottery, the offseason, and the 2019-2020 season?
It's going to be very, very interesting how things come to fruition there. I hear the general manager, he gave an interview and speech today that he spent 36 years here in Detroit. Unless someone else has direction on he's supposed to be going somewhere else, he's going to still be here with the Detroit Red Wings. You still have Steve Yzerman out there who's taking a lesser role in Tampa Bay, but as of this year, he will no longer be receiving a paycheck from him. And you kind of figure out some things there, hopefully, that will do the Red Wings some good. As far as the personnel is concerned, I don't think it's all about the draft. I think they got players right now that they can use very, very schematically there. They have some players right now who can score some goals and can probably do better than what they did this year. I think what the decency is right now, if they're going to go after someone, they need to go after some defense. That is, they have the Achilles heel in the last 5-6 years. The defense has not been all that up and up as far as a contending team. That has to be fixed. As far as the goaltending is concerned, Jimmy Howard signed a 1 year. Now, I look at that 2 ways. he can be very good trade bait if someone needs a goaltender, okay? And he's under contract with the Red Wings so they can go ahead and do business instead of just letting the guy walk out in the street. And I see that might be a possibility there if you can get a good doggone defenseman there. As far as goaltending is concerned, I think that the Red Wings are very much so set. Ken Holland, he says he's not going to. He's going to be here, but again, he may be receiving some help in other directions there. Again, if Eisenman decide to come on into play, hopefully he don't go to Toronto. That will be a big mistake. Oh man, this place will be crying. However, again, the Red Wings' future look very bright. They look like they will be a playoff team next year because of growth and development there, and also again the amount of talent they have up north in Grand Rapids as well as in Toledo.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's continue and let's talk about a very pleasant surprise over the past week. When you and I last talked on the game last week, the Tigers were 2-2 coming off a road split at Toronto. They lost the first game in New York, and then, well, they haven't lost since. The Tigers have won 5 in a row, including a weekend sweep at home against Kansas City. You were there for the home opener on Thursday, a chilly game. Got warmed up on Saturday and Sunday, as did the Tigers bats on Saturday. Yesterday, the Tigers with a 3-1 win over the Kansas City Royals, as Tyson Ross, 7 impressive innings, allowing just 1 run on 5 hits. The Tigers, 7-3 in first place in the AL Central. Now, Butch, you were talking in the last few weeks about, this team maybe isn't as bad, and I would say it definitely isn't as bad as a lot of people thought they would be. They're getting outstanding starting pitching. Their relief pitching is doing very good as well. Their defense has been really good, and they're playing hard. There's a lot of things to like about this Tigers start.
Well, they have nothing to lose, and the coach has put it in so many words. You got nothing to lose there. You got nowhere to go but up. And this team has shown that. They've shown that they have young players who want to be here. They've shown that there's some young players who want to show everybody in the world that they belong. And Chris Stewart, for example, his actually big first year here. The guy wants to stay, and no better way of showing people you want to stay than make some contribution. He's not been able to make the contributions defensive-wise. There's a lot of work needs to be done there with Mr. Stewart in the outfield. However, his singing volumes there. He has saved 3 games right now for the Tigers, can book in the win column there. That because of him, they have done very well. Harrison, a newbie, free agent there. Excellent job he's doing, along with Mercer, doing an excellent job there. And some others as well who's making contributions that they should be making. Now, again, the Tigers, is not all that perfect. Their outfield needs a lot of work, and because of interchangeable parts you're going to be seeing throughout the season there. But again, they need a lot of work, but their infield is solid, more solid than I can imagine. It's been very good. Their catching has been outstanding, not only behind the plate, but throwing out runners. You can't ask for anything better than that. Again, it all leads up to defense, holding people down, giving yourself an opportunity to get in there and make a chance to win.
Butch, Lions, and some news as far as running backs since last week. They signed C.J. Anderson to a deal, making more moves before the NFL draft later this month. Anything you want to talk about or add about the Detroit Lions?
No. We can say what we want to say about the Detroit Lions per se there. Nothing's going to get done until the actual working body of work when these players start walking into their not mandatory per se, but unmandatory workout that's going to be signed for them. That starts next week. They'll be able to get in shape. The coaching staff will be able to walk around and see if they're getting the body of work done. So when the mandatory working outs come to play, they'll be somewhat on board as far as their homework is concerned. A lot of reading, a lot of studying, and placement. There's many new members on the team. I don't think the Lions are going to stop trying to get more players involved in the camp, to put some pressure on some people to give their very, very best, not only during the camp per se, but throughout the season. the management staff is going to have to make a very comprehensive decision on who they're going to stay and who's going to go, okay? We've had a lot of teams that just somewhat like the Pistons per se there, that we have players who come and get the money, but when it comes down to making the performance on the Sunday afternoons, they don't show up, or they show up when they feel like it. You can't have that and be a competitive team. These fans in the city of Detroit, southeastern Michigan, state of Michigan, they are very loyal to you to a fault. These teams will not be in the position they have been in the past or in the future as far as financial is concerned if it wasn't the case. It's all about the fans. And when the fans start turning their head and the Lions are 2 cents or 2 shakes from fans really just turning their head and saying, we'll find something else to do, they need to get it together. And that starts with the administration staff making the right decisions, and it starts with the coaching staff getting the best out of players so they show up every Sunday giving their all.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. He'll be part of Hour 2 with myself, E.J. Russell, and Dave McCaig. Butch, I wanted to save enough time in this segment. We're going to extend it a little bit because I want to talk to you about something I know that you watched last night, and I know that I want to talk about Wrestlemania 35. Those other two guys maybe watch it, but that doesn't matter. You and I are talking about it. We got about 15 minutes to talk about it. As history was made last night at Wrestlemania 35, a trio of women headlined the show for the first time in company history. Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair in a triple threat match for the women's championship. Becky Lynch did win, although the ending still being talked about tonight. Be interesting to see if that is talked about on WWE's Raw coming up later on tonight. All elsewhere on the card, Kofi Kingston became just the second African-American to capture the WWE Championship when he beat Daniel Bryan. And Seth Rollins slayed the beast by taking down Brock Lesnar in the first match of the main show. 7 of the 9 titles defended at WrestleMania 35 changed hands. It was a good night for the faces as they overwhelmingly won over the heels, and a record 82,000 fans at MetLife Stadium. I shouldn't say WWE WrestleMania record, but a MetLife Stadium record. And $17 million was grossed from the event, the third most in WrestleMania history. Butch, a lot I want to talk about on WrestleMania, but just overall, your thoughts on the big show last night. It was a long one, 7.5 hours, but had a lot of action.
It was long, you know. We had enough beverages and whatnot to hold in.
Yeah.
I looked at the clock. It was 12 o'clock, and the main event is just starting here, man. I said, these guys really had it going on here. But I give this WrestleMania maybe a B. Okay, in performance all the way around there. Every match wasn't always the best match. When they first came on and whatnot there, and that started around about, if people know, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, where they had the Cruiserweight Championship there, and then the other good stuff such as the Women's Battle Royal. It was the Women's Battle Royal was pretty amazing, I would say. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins and the Revival, that was a good one there.
I like that one a lot.
I like that one. That was a good laugher there. Going, the hometown fans will get probably a bite of Kurt Hawkins and Ryder there. At least see how long they hold that championship as other competitions stronger than them. I'm quite sure was going to take over the reins there. Braun Strowman's thing was a joke too here. All in all, I thought that could have been a lot better. I thought he could have really just picked them on up, and 2 gentlemen from Saturday Night Live, and throw them out a window or something there. That would
yes, please.
And just throw them for a certain amount of guys who decided to stay by the ring instead of just going backstage, and when they got thrown out the ring there. Alexa Bliss, they could have kept that or leave it there. They started off with WrestleMania, the actual show, with Zach Rollins, okay, and Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar, I mean, he had his way throughout that particular match until, I don't know, it wasn't no second win or third win. I don't know. It was a good microphone or something here. Oh, I guess it's time to do your little kicks, Steph. And 3 good kicks in the head there took care of him. where we don't have to see Brock Lesnar no more, at least for a good while, I say 6-7 months, because I'm quite sure he already has work already arranged for him there. The AJ Styles Randy Orton match was very good. I like that match. The Shane McMahon and the Miz match, where you knew something was going to happen of some kind of stunt, and did not disappoint anybody. It did happen. Pretty good match. The Usos and the 4-man tag team match, that was pretty okay. The Iconics, that was a laugh in general there. I don't know how long that's going to last either there. But again, they seem like the heel type of matchmakers there. So they're going to win a lot of matches by disqualification and stuff. The Kofi Kingston Daniel Bryan match was one of the best matches of the night. That kept everybody going. It was fantastic. They went a good 55 minutes in that match there, and none of it was bad at all. It was, to me, one of the best matches of the night. The Samoa Joe match with Rey Mysterio, that was pretty unique in itself there, but again, it didn't last for 15 seconds there. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, you kind of knew what they were going to do. They didn't disappoint, beating each other's brains out there. And John Cena coming back.
Thugonomics is back.
Yeah. He came on out there, and what he should have did was just took the guitar of Elias and just beat his brains out, Right. A lot better than he just showing up there with that little hat on and a fake New York Yankees jersey on there. But again, the Batista and Triple H match, that was a barn burner. They beat each other's brains out to a no not one. And after that, Batista announced, if you haven't heard already today, he's finally retiring from the WWE there. So I give him a year and a half, and he'll be one of the people in the Hall of Fame, for that particular one. But you have to have a reason, and again, Batista did his reason there. The Baron Corbin and Kurt Angle match that stunk to high heaven there. I didn't understand that one at all. Finn Balor and the Bobby Lashley match was okay. You about knew what was going to happen from that there, but again, him coming out as being the demon, that's kind of wicked and scary. And of course, the last match where the women were beating each other's brains out to a pulp, and that final decision where, however it happened, and I don't know what happened, or was it running out of time or whatever it may be, but Becky Lynch ended up winning the match there. And again, I don't understand it. It's going to be more out of that, as you know, doing Monday Night Raw. So there you have it there. I give it a B, maybe a B minus.
I agree with pretty much most of what you said there, Butch, as I usually do. I give it a B as well. I mean, I think the show had a lot of good, more than bad. Going through the matches on the main card, and I agree with what you said about the pre-show matches. I didn't like the men's battle royal. I did like the women's, and I really liked the Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. I think Hawkins was 0-269 or something. He finally got a win. So I thought they did that very well. I was a bit surprised to see Hulk Hogan to come out first there, as Alexa Bliss introduced him. And he jokingly called the stadium the Pontiac Silverdome, and he actually did make a mistake by calling it the MetLife Center. So Hogan back in mid-season form once again. You kind of thought Brock Lesnar was going to drop the title to this one. You haven't seen him much. They've played the angle. He's going to go fight UFC. He's probably going to fight Daniel Cormier in a heavyweight championship. So I think Seth Rollins was deserving of the title, and I thought the match, much like Brock Lesnar's match, is a bit short, but a lot of violence, and I think they did a good job with that. I liked the Styles-Orton match as well. Two very good performers, as AJ Styles had to wait till age 38 to make his WrestleMania debut, but he continues to put on great matches pretty much week in and week out. SmackDown Tag Team Championships I thought was a decent match. The Usos against The Bar, Ricochet, Aleister Black, Rusev, and Shinsuke Nakamura. It made sense for the Usos to retain their title. That Shane McMahon, The Miz fight, you knew that you were going to see something crazy. And, Shane McMahon, I'll tell you what, he is not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He goes out and he brings it, and he puts on some really good matches. And this one was a great match. I mean, it was almost like a disaster waiting to happen, and it did happen. And I thought that was one of the best matches of the night. The Iconics, again, like you said, Butch, I think, you're going to see them you needed some heels to win on WrestleMania, and that one made sense to me. I think the Kofi Kingston-Daniel Bryant match really was the match of the night. I thought that the WWE's hands were a little bit forced. I don't know if this was in the plans a couple months ago after Money in the Bank and after the Royal Rumble, but the fans spoke on somebody that has put time in week in, week out. Kofi Kingston, it was just a great job by however Kofi Kingston got to this point, by him getting the title. I just thought they did that one very well. To me, that was the match of the night. Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio, again, Samoa Joe's a great heel. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, you knew that was going to happen. John Cena coming back, I really like that with Elias. I think Triple H, Batista, that match, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I think those old guys, they're both older than me, Butch, and they brought it. And you kind of knew Triple H was going to win that. Corbin Angle was, to me, the most disappointing match of the night. I mean, I just don't get that one as well. You knew Finn Balor was going to win as the Demon, and then the women. I mean, the match was good. Ending, not so much. Like you said, Butch, we'll find out tonight on Raw and SmackDown, and very soon, both those shows, or I should say SmackDown's going to be going to Fox, so it's going to be very interesting to see where wrestling goes post-WrestleMania, isn't it?
Yes, it's going to be that way, and I think what they're going to do is kind of did what they should have did a long time ago, or what they have done a long time ago, and that is no longer kind of segregate the wrestlers to be relegated to SmackDown or Raw. You'll get to see a mix of wrestlers appear on both shows there, and which it should be, okay? They shouldn't always have to be, stationed for one product or the other there. USA Network has been the flagship station for the WWE for quite some time. And so they normally gets the better of a lot of the wrestlers and whatnot there. Not saying SmackDown is not, to me, is the better show, not so much because of the wrestlers, for how they designed the show to be, not so much risque, but some of the Tektronic things they have used in it, such as when the commercials come on, you get to see the matches still in display. They have done a lot of things that kind of keep things on the up and up there, keep you a lot more interested and a lot more not fatigued for 2 hours, but a lot more excited for the 2 hours they're on the air. And they're going to need that energy when you go on national TV and you kind of expect it's going to be a more user or bigger audience. Wrestling is powerful, and a lot of them, quite sure, a lot of the regular networks there, knowing that this is going to come back in fruition, that Fox now has the WWE to deal with on a Tuesday night or whatever night they decide to have that on. It's going to give a lot of headaches to the networks for those 2 hours between 8 and 10, or if they decide to maybe bring it on early at 7:30 to 10 o'clock, it's going to give a lot of those stations the flux there, and their ratings is going to go down here. A lot of people are going to watch wrestling more than they watch some of the other events that are on television.
Butch Davis joining us on The Game. Again, you can find him on our website, thegamesportshow.com or thegamesportshow.podbean.com. You can also go right to his podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com, or you can find him on Facebook. Give him a like at Butch On Sports. Butch, we're going to take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to start our roundtable where we will talk about the world of sports with myself, you, E.J. Russell, and a little bit later, Dave McCaig. So stick tight. We'll be back here in a few minutes, my friend.
All righty.
All right, that's going to do it for hour one of the game. We'll be back for our roundtable and hour two here on Eagle 95.1.
The Wicked Sister, Soo, Michigan. Check TripAdvisor. Ranked right towards the top. Awarded the Certificate of Excellence, as well as voted #1 pub in the UP. The Wicked Sister has managed to create a casual menu that offers unique, creative, and sometimes healthy offerings that rivals menu selections of any big city. Burgers and starters, snacks and shareables, soups and salads, sandwiches and tapas. On Ashman Street, Soo, Michigan. Welcome to the Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsoo.as.me-. The Salon, making the Soo beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop. The Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Soo Pee Wee Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop, for over 40 years, meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful, new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1 and online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. We hope to be back to the Wicked Sister next Monday night for our next edition. We're continuing to be joined by Butch Davis from Butch On Sports, who joined us in hour one. And we are now joined by our newest contributor and weekly co-host, E.J. Russell, on the Riverside Toyota Hot Seats, all the way from Escanaba, Michigan. Joining us, EJ, it's a Monday. How you doing, my friend?
Well, it was quite an interesting weekend in sports and week in total. But I'm surviving. A little bit upset about somehow how the Final Four games played out. But other than that, ready to talk sports is always fun with you two.
We love having you on, EJ and Butch. And well, EJ, since you're our newest guest, we will give you first crack on the round table, where we talk about a topic in the world of sports and have a go at it, and sometimes lively opinion and debates and a lot of fun. So, E.J. Russell, what would you like to bring up on tonight's roundtable? Butch, I'll give you first crack at E.J.'s topic.
Well, the thing that's near and dear to the majority of us sports fans right now is the way that the NCAA tournament semifinals games have played out. Having said that, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on how both of those games, the Michigan State, Texas Tech, and the Virginia-Auburn game played out. And who do you guys have winning the big game tonight? That's going to be tip-off at about 9:20. So we'll all get a chance to watch and just see what you guys think.
Yeah, we're recording this show 6 to 8 o'clock on Monday, so we don't have any inside scoop on what's going to be happening in the game. Butch, we touched on it a little bit in hour one. I'll give you first crack at EJ's topic here in hour two.
Well, excuse me. We know that what I want to say personally there. Again, the NCAA got to do a whole heck of a lot of better officiating. And then, again, there's some rules that are out here right now that they could have used, or some things they could have done in making the game more realistic. When I say realistic, that is, you have the officials out there and they miss a call, and it's blatant that they missed it. And I can't see how 4 people missed something. It's beyond me. But some of the things that they miss, such as the double dribble and all, and then the holding after the double dribble, and before you got to a shot that basically it was a body call, or it should have maybe, in my judgment, been a no call. I can understand the man used his hands to somewhat to persuade or somewhat massage the shot. But again, as his body was coming down, it did make contact with the shooter who was going up into the particular defensive player. To me, again, that should have been a no call. The NCAA, again, in my judgment, they need to make some. They need to have a come to. I call it a coming to Jesus meeting, because making the money that they make and the finances that they do and all the hype they want to give the stations, to give the players and all, it seems like there's no balance when it comes down to the actual game. The players get to play, but again, the result of the game seems like it's always wrapped up in some type of controversy. And that's really not good for the game at all there. It's not really good at all. Texas Tech has been getting fairly generic press. There's no hiding that their defense has been outstanding all year long, but they've got generic press until they beat up on Michigan and still got generic press. When they took care of Michigan State, now you're looking at the difference of this particular team and how important defense comes into play when it comes to getting some scruples toward the game. And again, that's public relations. I can, the only thing I can say is we can't be all great of being these offensive players that many want to be, or many feel that why we watch the game. But again, the finer points of the game, such as the defense and how they play the game and the skills they use to do it, I think the NCAA got to do a better job of allowing that particular part of the game to happen, where just as much as the name players they want to give all this credit to, such as Mr. Williamson and who's not going to be around, get some play as well.
Yeah, E.J., I had a chance to watch both games in their entirety. First, the Virginia-Auburn game. I mean, that was a battle. And Virginia, they've survived a couple scares, to say the least. And you got to really give it to Auburn, the way they played. One of their star players was not playing. And I look at that game, and they go up 4 with about, 14 seconds left, and they still had 2 fouls to give at that point. And I think, and again, it's easy to, Monday morning quarterback and try to, say you should have done this, you should have done that. I think that would have been the better scenario, to maybe use those 2 fouls, or maybe you don't use those 2 fouls and let them go down. Well, they hit the 3, and then, we saw what happened there. And we've said this on several occasions on this show, talking about high school basketball, talking about the NFL, talking about hockey, pretty much talking about any sport. Accountability in officiating. And this is the level where you're supposed to have the best of the best. And I don't know how you have 3 guys that could miss a very obvious double dribble. Now, again, it was a little maybe hard to see live action, but it was a double dribble. That was a bad call. That call should not have had. Was there a foul before that? Again, you can say maybe there was, but those were both missed. So I think the officials need to be held to a higher standard and a little more accountability than what we've seen. And then you saw the shot at the end. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul? I kind of lean towards where Butch goes. I don't know how you can end the game calling that, but if you look at the replay, maybe there was a little contact. You got to give credit to the Virginia kid to go up there and knock down 3 free throws, though, to win that game. So Virginia, you almost feel, after what happened last year, losing to Baltimore County, first ever 1 versus 16, where the 16 won. It just seems ironic, or it almost seems like scripted, that they're going to win tonight and, maybe not put those demons totally to rest, but they'll feel a little better about life if they take over, or I should say take their first ever title tonight, which I think they will. Texas Tech, Michigan State, Spartans just didn't have it that night. It was a combination of a few things. Obviously, the Texas Tech defense was tough. Spartans didn't crash the offensive glass and really were hurt by lack of their bigs playing good games. Goins, Ward, really nowhere to be found in those games. I mean, you only had you had, two players really score the majority of their points. Cassius Winston did what he could. McQuaid missed a big three at the end where the Spartans were down 13. He would have hit that. They would have been tied. I think that game totally changes. But I'm not really that upset. I think maybe I should be more upset as a Michigan State fan getting to another Final Four. And Tom Izzo now is starting to get the moniker of a great coach, but he gets to the Final Four. He's only won one now in 8. And, you see these other big coaches, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, to name a few, they get to Final Fours and they win. But Spartans have a lot coming back next year, as does Michigan. So I think both those teams are going to be in the mix. As for tonight's game, Butch and I were talking about it, EJ, in hour one. Monday Night Raw is probably going to have more of my attention than this game. I mean, it's going to be a slugfest. I think you're going to see a score maybe like the 85 final between Villanova and Georgetown, where that was before the three-point line, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to see a low-scoring game, but I really think Virginia now is almost destined with having the thing that happened against Purdue. A guy scores 42. You have a last-second shot to go through, and then what happened against Auburn. So I think Virginia cuts down the nets tonight. EJ, your thoughts on your own topic?
Well, let's go to the first game of the semifinal, which was the Virginia-Auburn game. I was thoroughly impressed by that basketball game. It was enjoyable to watch front to back. Obviously, the biggest story there is the double dribble and foul call. For me, I don't think that this game deserves to have as much controversy around the officials as people have been making it, and I'll explain myself here. So in regards to the foul, it was absolutely a foul. And I give that official all the credit in the world for making that call. And I'll reference CBS, who was broadcasting the game, pulled in Gene Steratore as their rules official. Now, Gene Steratore has a background in NFL officiating. He's called Super Bowls, many playoff games, as well as regular season games in the NFL. And he was a fantastic official, head referee in many of the games that he officiated. When they went to him for his opinion on the foul call, I thought he explained it perfectly, and he called it an A to B jump, and you'll hear me reference that, and I want to give him credit for that. Now, as a defender, you have the right to go up and attempt to block, but as a shooter, you're also guaranteed the right to come back down. And when that player committed the A to B jump, not landing in the same spot where he took off, and interfered with the shooter on the way down, that's a foul, and that's a difficult call to make. And I give that official all the credit in the world for making that call. The other thing is the missed double dribble call. And when we all watched that in real time, I don't think that anybody watched that and said, that ball definitely hit his heel. You saw it in real time. The game is happening. And then when they went back and looked at that after the foul call, then they noticed that it hit his heel. And at that point, now people were questioning the double dribble. I think as an official, I give you a pass on not making that call because as a fan in real time, I didn't see it either. And nobody else in the building saw it. And if anybody else had thought it was a double dribble at the time that it happened, the Auburn fans would have started booing sooner. And they didn't realize it until after the game was over. So I don't think that the officiating should be the part of that story or that game that we're talking about, although it will be a popular topic. But the referees made what I thought were the best calls that could be made in those situations. Absolutely was a foul. Yes, there was a double dribble, but in real time, not one of us saw that until we saw a replay. And you got to give the officials some credit on that. But if they would have called that double dribble, Auburn would have had the ball with about 1.52 seconds left on the clock. And Virginia wouldn't have been in that situation, possibly, we don't know, to make that shot. Auburn would have been given the ball back with a 2-point lead. So you would think that they would make something happen there. But they were struggling at the end of that game to inbound the ball. And that's where Virginia does deserve a little bit of credit. They played great hustle defense at the end of that game. Now, Texas Tech is looking like one of the best teams I've ever seen defensively in the history of NCAA basketball. And this is just my opinion. And you look at who they've played in these last 5 games of the tournament. They've beaten Buffalo, which many teams thought were an underdog to make it to the Sweet 16 and even the Elite 8. Michigan, Gonzaga, MSU. These are all teams, these last 3, the MSU, Gonzaga, and Michigan, that were all in the top 10 at some point in the year. These are very, very good basketball teams, and they're beating them all by more than enough wiggle room. I think the closest game in there is Gonzaga, which is a 75 to 69 point win. Other than that, they're all 10-point plus wins. And that really speaks their defense. Only game where a team scored over 60 points was Gonzaga, and they still ended up beating them. And Gonzaga was widely considered one of the favorites coming into this tournament as a front runner. They were a number 1 seed. Virginia's had a little bit less to deal with. Yes, they faced a very, very good Auburn team, a very, very good Purdue team, a 12th-ranked Oregon team that came out and surprised a lot of people. But to me, when I look at who they've played in the tournament, Texas Tech has a lot more momentum and a lot more quality wins, I'll say, than Virginia. The fact that they have the number 1 team as far as defensive efficiency goes, I mean, they've really proved that throughout this tournament. And most of us don't realize that they had success in the tournament last year, too. Okay, this isn't just a fluky thing. They were good last year. They're good this year. UVA looking to redeem themselves after the loss to the 16th seed. University of Maryland, Boston County, Retrievers. So we'll see what happens tonight. Virginia is favored 60-something% to 30-something% as far as the odds go. But I'm going to take Texas Tech, and I think that if Texas Tech wins, you're not going to see Virginia score more than, I'll say, 50 points. If they hold Virginia under 50, they win. And the hardest challenge for them is going to be shutting down Mamadi Diakite, if I'm saying his name correctly, who's a fantastic rebounder for the University of Virginia. Kind of reminds me of Cisco, for those of you that are listening to the hip-hop. And
Thong Song.
Oh, yeah. But he's got the light color hair, but he plays with the kind of ferocity and aggressiveness at the rim and rebounding the basketball that I think is going to help Virginia in this game. And I do think, Scott, you nailed it. Kyle Guy, for hitting those 3 free throws at the end of the game, was ice cold. He was the perfect person to have in that scenario, leading the team in points per game as far as Virginia goes this year. Really, and the second he released every one of those free throws, you knew the ball was going in there. He shot those with the utmost confidence. He didn't even look concerned. So he deserves some credit for that. Virginia's got some ice in their blood. They're going to be out for winning their first national title as well as Texas Tech. But I do think that Texas Tech's defense has proven themselves against a lot of very good teams in this tournament. I'll take the Red Raiders, we'll say 58-50.
Great topic and insight, EJ and Butch. Let's continue the roundtable. Dave McCaig is going to join us here in about 10 minutes. Sounds like it was a busy day in human resources. Probably had a lot of grievances to deal with. So, Butch Davis, what topic would you like to bring up on tonight's roundtable?
Well, it wouldn't be fair to bring up any hockey right now because our main man is not there, so I'm going to wait around, and I'm going to take a pass, and you go ahead, Scott, until McCaig get around, because mine will be probably on the Stanley Cup upcoming here.
I was thinking the same thing, Butch, so we'll save the hockey for the next topic. And, well, Butch, you and I talked about the Tigers in the first hour, and, you know, we're now 10 games into the baseball season. Obviously, still very, very early, but I wanted to get your thoughts. And, Butch, we'll go to you first, and then we'll go to EJ on just Major League Baseball as we enter, the third full week. Looking at how some of the teams are doing, early surprises. I think the biggest one, the Boston Red Sox, defending champions, tied with the Toronto Blue Jays at 3-8 in the AL East after starting the season on the West Coast. Not exactly the start that they wanted. Butch and I talked about the Tigers. Nobody had them 7-3 on top of the AL Central. EJ, your Cleveland Indians right there with the Tigers 6-3. They start a 3-game series at Comerica Park. AL West, Seattle off to a great start at 9-2. Then over in the National League, Phillies and Mets, no big surprises there. Doing well early. You have the Milwaukee Brewers doing well. The Cubs off to a rough start, 3-7. They did win today against Pittsburgh. And then, the Dodgers, they're hitting all sorts of home runs, off to a very good start. We're very early days into the Major League Baseball season, gentlemen. But, Butch, I'll go to you first. Anything that's catching your eye as far as Major League Baseball?
Well, I would say the Seattle thing has really shocked me there. I know they were a little bit better team because, and I keep very close tabs on them from people from Portland, Oregon, and up in there, and relatives up in Washington there. And we knew they made a lot of adjustments, and we knew that the East Row situation from the beginning of the season was going to be an ending point. So I would say but the team had a lot more. How could I put this? A lot more organization quietness to just go about their business and do what they had to do in order to get by. The West is not all that strong to me there. With Oakland, they'll probably come up in later in the season. Los Angeles has kind of surprised me, but again, to me, they're not the best team out west per se. As Seattle is right now, they do have pitching second to none versus the other teams there, and a lot more better talent there. The Robinson-Cano trade that they made gave them volumes in kind of making the team a lot better and not worse there. On the other flip side there, for the National League, St. Louis has not has really shocked me per se, as well as the Chicago Cubs that really look very, very bad there. Just now winning a couple of games here this past weekend there, but again, I thought they would be better suited this year than years past to kind of get in there and compete early there. That has shocked me very much so. Surprises. That's in the National League per se. Not so many surprises there. Bryce Harper has done what he was, rectified to do, and that is bring people in the seats of Philadelphia. He has done that and then some, and not disappoint them by giving them at least 2 games at home of some home runs and some fairly well cheering, and the way Philadelphians do. The Tigers, over 100,000 people this weekend watched baseball in Detroit. I could not believe it myself. When the beginning of the season, they saw the season off with 39-degree weather. The place was packed to the rim, and you couldn't get a better doggone start than see a win. And the way they got it is to come back and not give up, and to get that particular win there, with people very fashionable there. If you haven't been down to downtown Detroit on opening day, it is a field day down Woodward Avenue from Cadillac Square to Campus Martius to all the parks in between the way. Every lot is full. It has maybe a radio station there with disc jockeys. The Fox Theater was opened up to see the game. And as I was coming out that particular day, let me see, the Red Wings restaurant right across the street from Comerica Park lost their lights, and over 600 people downtown Detroit did not have any electricity. The only thing was running was those particular parties that had generators going on, playing disc jockey music and whatnot, and showing lights and whatnot, and hooking up for the trucks. Baseball was pretty unique on Thursday for me there, per se, in downtown Detroit with the win and all. And to see the Tigers over this weekend have the lead that they have, you don't expect a lot to happen, but I said at the beginning, I think this team is a better call than what people give them credit to be. I think they're going to be a lot more competitive than people have. I don't think this team has anything to lose, and that's what's going to make them pretty doggone great. It's the same thing in 2006 with the Tigers. A lot of people didn't think they would do a whole heck of a lot, but they showed on up with Kenny Rogers and all, and gave everybody something that no one expected, and that's a World Series. Didn't do well in it, but however, there was about the same amount of team that were going out there with the Craig Monroes and some of the other players that you didn't know too much about, but came in every single doggone day giving up an effort.
EJ, Butch and I talked a lot about the Tigers' great start, very surprising start to many. Your thoughts on Major League Baseball, about 150 some odd games for most teams, so early trends for you, sir.
Seattle Mariners deserve a lot of credit right now. I mean, they're 9-2 and they look strong. Hitting the baseball very well, just like the Los Angeles Dodgers. Started off that first game of the year, setting a Major League opening day record with 8 home runs, and have followed up well since that. And they're continuing to hit the baseball, like you said, Scott. Home run after home run after home run. LA Dodgers are right now in the class of the NL West. But the team for me that I'm honestly most surprised by has to be the Detroit Tigers. And they've had so many struggles in the past few years that I don't want to say I'm surprised to see them do well. I would say I'm surprised to see them finding a groove this early in the year, and yes, it is still very early. But I was watching a game the other day, and the one thing that I thought to myself while watching that game was during one of Miguel Cabrera's at-bats. This is a guy that has been a power hitter for a good chunk of his career, and he has the ability to get base hits. And in the past, in these last couple of years, I felt like you could see him coming up to the plate looking to hit a home run. And the thing that I think that he did very well in the game that I watched was that you could tell he was looking to get a base hit. Everything he was putting was on a rope. It was hard hit. It was low. He wasn't looking to put the ball out of the park. He ended up scoring a couple runs, had a few RBIs in that game that I was watching. It's great to see Miguel Cabrera starting to find that rhythm again. I think if he simplifies his approach at the plate, I think he can continue to find the success that he had earlier in his career. This is the same guy that's won the Triple Crown in the past, which is one of the most difficult things to do in all professional sports. I mean, taking a mind in professional baseball, if you hit 30% of your pitches, you're one of the best of all time. I mean, this is a guy who has been there and done that, and seeing him find ways to put the ball in the play and put runs on the board for his team in some of these situations has been huge for the Tigers. And the fact that they're missing one of their best pitchers right now, not in their rotation. He's out getting, I believe, Tommy John surgery. He's going to be out for the year. But they've been playing such great baseball. Indians haven't found ways to put runs on the board yet, so I believe that the Tigers are the best team in the AL Central at this point in time. I do think that you'll see that trend start to switch. Cleveland should climb back up. Detroit, I think, will finish higher this year. I do think that they'll be the second or third best team in the AL Central. I think another team to watch is the Minnesota Twins. They've been building momentum over the last few years, and they've been dangerous. But Seattle, absolutely the talk of the American League right now. Surprised to see the New York Yankees closer to a 500 record than a well above 500 record. I think there's too much talent in that lineup with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge and Brett Gardner and everybody that they have there, that they need to be leaps and bounds above and beyond everybody else in the AL East. And Boston's not getting that production from their bullpen. Last I saw was that they were 28th in ERA in Major League Baseball as of Saturday or Sunday night. I mean, they're not getting the performances from guys like Chris Sale and everybody else in their lineup that they should be getting, or in their rotation. So we'll see what happens in Boston. I don't see that being a long-term trend. Philadelphia looks good. Milwaukee looks good. These are teams that we expected to look good early in the year. And we'll see how the year continues to play out. Again, we're very early. We're not even 10 games in for some teams here. Until we get to about the end of April, maybe into the end of May, early June, that's when you'll start to really see the teams settle into what you can expect out of the year. So we'll see how things pan out. I think it's going to be an exciting year in Major League Baseball. I think the division, though, that is going to be the most interesting to watch this year is going to be the NL West. Dodgers, Padres, Diamondbacks, and Colorado have all been decent teams in these last couple of years. San Francisco not having as much success as they've had as of last 5 years or whatever. But I think that that's going to be an exciting division to watch. I think the Dodgers should win it. But Padres added talent to their team with Manny Machado this year. Diamondbacks are still a very good ball club with a great pitcher in Zach Greinke. So we'll see how things continue to play out throughout the year. I think NL West, most exciting to watch. Big thumbs up to the Mariners and the hot start there. And of course, you got to give credit to the Detroit Tigers for finding a rhythm early.
E.J. Russell, Butch Davis, Scott Nason here on the round table on the game, and we are going to be joined by Dave McCaig here shortly. We're going to connect with Dave right now, host of the Game Sports Show from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and several places. So let's hear from Dave here shortly.
Scotty.
Dave, you are live with E.J., Butch, and myself on the round table. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great, Scotty. Sorry for being a little bit late. How you all doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, I'm punctual. I was on time.
Everybody is doing great. And Dave, you can thank Butch for saving this topic for you, and we're going to give you first crack at what will be probably our final topic here on the roundtable, the NHL playoffs, which will be starting here on Wednesday. The matchups are set. In the East, Tampa Bay, the top seed, will take on Columbus. You also have a very familiar matchup between Toronto and Boston. Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders, and the other first-place team, the defending champ, Washington Capitals, will take on the Carolina Hurricanes. In the West, the top seed is the Calgary Flames. They will take on Colorado. Other matchups in the West, see Nashville, who won the Central, take on Dallas, Winnipeg and St. Louis, and Vegas taking on San Jose. So Dave will go to you first, and then I will go next, and then Butch, and then EJ. NHL playoffs, first round, probably my favorite round of all the playoffs. What's your thoughts going in overall, and just give us your insights on what you think is going to happen.
First off, I didn't know playoffs were starting. I'm just totally kidding. Playoffs, you're talking about playoffs? My God. First things first, I'll jump into talking, of course, about Toronto-Boston. We knew that matchup was happening even prior to the season was happening. Everything happened as predicted, essentially in the Atlantic Division, except Montreal was a surprise to everybody. I feel that everyone had Tampa, Boston, Toronto in that order kind of going. Maybe people had Toronto ahead of Boston this year. I know I was one of the people that did. But obviously Boston having that hot month back in February going into the new year, it really solidified them in that top in the second, get the home ice advantage in that first round against Toronto, which I think is huge. The last two series that Toronto's played, Boston 2013 and just last year, they started off at the Garden and they didn't start hot either time. And each series they were down 3-1 and battled back to Game 7. Had a lead in the third period. They had a bigger lead in the third period back in 2013. They blew. So, Toronto has to slay the dragon. It's like you have to beat the best to get there, right? And Toronto or Boston have a tough road to go. After they play each other, it's probably a certainty that they'll be playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. But having Toronto, Boston where they're at right now, it's just going to be amazing to see how this goes. The season series was 3-1 Boston, where last year it was the other way around for Toronto, Boston. Toronto outplayed them last year. So it's a new season in the playoffs, and I think Toronto being healthy and Anderson being ready for the playoffs, I am a little bit more confident, despite there are some areas that I do struggle with believing that Toronto is better than what they were last year, especially on the defensive end of the puck. So it's going to be interesting to see. Boston is built for playoff hockey, and Toronto's fourth line is 5'9", 5'10", except Frederic Gauthier in average height. So Boston is a big, grueling team, so Toronto's going to have to use their speed, and they're going to have to outgun them and outscore them to win this series. I'm going to the other series just quickly, Tampa Bay and Columbus, okay? Like, people are really picking Tampa Bay to sweep this series. I don't think so, okay? Anyone who thinks this is going to be a sweep, I highly doubt it. I think, is Tampa going to win this series? Yes, I would be very surprised if they didn't win, but I don't think it's a bad matchup. Really, Columbus made all these moves at the deadline. They're tough. They're a hard-nosed team. If you look at their bottom two lines with Josh Anderson there, who actually plays more top 6 minutes, but guys like Boone Jenner, Anderson, you got Adam McQuaid, you got guys that are there for playoff hockey, and the Columbus, Ohio, I'm sure EJ can touch on this, is going to be absolutely booming in that arena in the playoffs. So, I can really say that series is going to, I think, almost go 6 games. People think I'm crazy, but I think it is going to go 6. Don't forget, Columbus gave Washington a good run for their money last year, the eventual Stanley Cup champions. So you got to watch out for Columbus there. And all the other series, I'll just say quickly as well, is, going in the Eastern side, the Islanders have a brutal first-round matchup against Pittsburgh. I don't care what the seeding says. Pittsburgh's a tough first round for anybody to have. And Pittsburgh is more playoff experienced. That's a good experience matchup for Long Island. I think it's going to be a tough series for them. So I actually got the Pens in 5 on the Islanders, to be totally honest. I think that's the way that's going to go. Canes and Capitals. I think the Washington Capitals are going to win the series in 7. I'm saying that's going the distance. Carolina's been a great surprise this year. They're starting to get more seats into the arena. They have a good hockey team. They're fast, and I think they're going to give Washington a run for their money. When you go over to the Western side, you have St. Louis and Winnipeg. That's the series that I feel bad for Jets fans, because St. Louis has been one of the hotter teams in the National Hockey League since October. That is a tough first round, and Winnipeg's got a long road ahead. They got to beat St. Louis. They potentially got to beat Nashville if they beat Dallas. And speaking of Nashville, Dallas, that's not going to be an easy series for Nashville, because our people can arguably say since the deadline, Nashville hasn't been that great. Dallas has been pretty good. So that series can go any way, but seeing Nashville not walk away in 6 or 7 games, I'd be very surprised. So Vegas, San Jose, that is going to be just as good as a series as Toronto, Boston. I'll tell you right now, that series is probably the series where I honestly think is going to go to the conference finals. One of those two teams, I think, are going to transition over to the conference finals. That's how I think it's going to work. I think San Jose has just absolutely built their roster great this year, and don't underestimate Vegas. They got a second line with Stone and Pacioretty and Stastny on it. Okay, that's a pretty good second line. So a lot of force there. So all these kind of playoff matches going on. You have Colorado, Calgary. People are predicting a potential upset with Calgary and Colorado based on what I've read. I think they're foolish. I really think Calgary is going to win that series in 5. So all in all, quickly to say, I think the playoffs, the first round, Scotty, you couldn't have said it better, is going to be very exciting. But that Toronto-Boston series is definitely going to be a series to see if John Tavares' add to Toronto is going to get them over the hump to slay the dragon, and how tough of a road it's going to be for those Atlantic Division teams, Boston, Toronto, and Tampa, and how they're going to feel going into that third round, how tired they're going to be because of how hard it's going to be between Tampa, Columbus, Toronto, Boston. Very excited to see how that goes. And you know what? The big key points for all the teams included, people really underestimate, but you got to have depth. Your third and fourth line has to be your best players, and your goalie has to be your second best player. People think that's crazy, but for example, Nazem Kadri, Boston, I think Kadri's the big focal point of that series. I think if he shuts down Bergeron, shuts down that line, and opens up for Tavares Matthews, you win a series. That's the way that goes. Anderson sure has to stop the puck. Hollaback has to stop the puck. All these guys have to stop the puck, but those depth guys are what's going to make teams go on. I can't wait for the puck to get dropped. Goal Leafs goal from my end, and I'm hoping for some upsets, so hopefully I'm incorrect with some of my predictions, but I think the first round is definitely the most exciting. Scott, you said it.
Well, you said it great there, Dave. Tough act to follow. I will do my best. The playoffs start on Wednesday with 5 games. There's usually always 3-4 games a night on during the first round. And again, it's to me the most exciting part. I mean, the whole NHL playoffs is exciting, but I really love it's kind of like the NCAA men's basketball tournament. I like the first 4 nights of the game or the days of the games, and I'm really excited for these matchups. Really, I think the power is in the East this year, but I wouldn't say that the Eastern champion will have a cakewalk to win the Stanley Cup. Let's start with Tampa Bay. I mean, you look at what they did during the regular season, 62 wins, tying the 95-96 Red Wings for most wins in the NHL. That team did not win the Stanley Cup. As a matter of fact, the last President's Trophy team to win the Stanley Cup, I believe, was the 2012-2013 Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the team that wins the regular season's best record is going to win the Stanley Cup. That being said, this Tampa team is really strong. I agree with Dave. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk against Columbus. You remember Columbus won the first 2 games on the road against Washington and then lost the last 4. Our listener and good friend Don Supa, he went to one of the last games against Boston, and Columbus is a fun team to watch. I still think Tampa Bay wins that series. And you said it, Dave. You got to slay the dragon if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, much like we saw Washington when they beat Pittsburgh, the team that was their nemesis. Obviously, if Toronto's going to go anywhere, they got to get through Boston. This is going to be a tough series. I don't see the Leafs winning this one. I think Boston's tougher. They kind of have maybe the heads of the Maple Leafs maybe second guessing themselves. And if Toronto is going to win, they cannot get down 3-1. Obviously, they're going to need to win one of those first 2 games and try to bring it back to Toronto tied at 1. But Boston, I think, has a little too much for Toronto, in my opinion. Washington, Carolina, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for the Capitals. Defending champ, looking to repeat. Pittsburgh did that a few years ago. Washington is very strong. Carolina hasn't been in the playoffs, I think, in 10 years. I like Washington in this series, but I don't think it's going to be a 4 or 5 game. Or maybe we'll give that one 6. And I'm going to throw an upset here. I don't have many upsets in my playoffs, but why not? Pittsburgh is usually a very smart bet in the playoffs, and yes, they maybe underachieved a little bit by their standards in the regular season, but why not? I'm going to pick the Islanders just to be a little bit different. How about a Toronto New York Islanders Eastern Conference Final where that idiot there, the last game there where Tavares was, I'm sure you saw on social media, this guy that 50 years old, probably living in his parents' basement, jawing at Tavares. I mean, I get it, you're upset, but I mean, come on, get over things, people. So that's how I see the East. I really have a hard time seeing Tampa Bay losing and not making it to the Stanley Cup, but hey, crazier things have happened. I think the West is very unpredictable. I can see 5 or 6 teams that could very well win the West. I was big on Colorado all season long. I still think they're a good team. Do they have enough to knock off Calgary? I don't think so. But they could have the number 1 pick come tomorrow night because they own Ottawa's draft pick, who has the best chance to get young Mr. Hughes. Can you imagine if Colorado gets that pick and adds him? Look out for the Avalanche in the future, but I don't think they're going to win this one. I like Vegas over San Jose. I agree with what Dave said. I think the winner of that series very well goes to the conference final. I'm not sold on Calgary yet to make it too far into the playoffs. Boy, that Central was wild. Nashville, along with Winnipeg, Dallas, all those teams finishing, St. Louis, all those teams finishing very close to each other. Winnipeg against St. Louis, oh boy, that is a tough matchup. I think of all the first-round matchups, that and the Toronto-Boston ones are the toughest ones to call. I like Winnipeg in that series just because I think they have a little more playoff experience. And then you have Nashville and Dallas. Dallas, like Dave said, a very up-and-coming team. Nashville has been there a bit. I do like Nashville in that one. It's going to be wild, boys. I made my Stanley Cup prediction on Paul Van Wagner's show, The Drive, earlier today, which you can find at thegamesportshow.com. I said Tampa in the East. I said Winnipeg in the West, and I have Tampa winning it all, going chalk in the NHL playoffs. Butch, you're next, my friend. What's your thoughts on the NHL playoffs?
Well. I'm going to kind of dial it down a minute here. I don't know. Well, I can always do something really quick. Joe Quenneville, the last guy who won it all in Chicago there, who with that great record in the President Cup and then win the Stanley Cup. Y'all remember him?
Oh, I sure do.
You do. Yeah, you do. Well,
he got a new job.
Yeah, in Florida today. He is the new. I'm going to tell you a little story here, right quick here. Kind of makes me laugh. 2 doors from me is Joe Quenneville's older sister lives right next to me here, and she's she's been very dear in getting me around during my time of sabbatical here during my injury and all. Of course, she went on vacation on April the 1st. So, with saying all of that there and all what's going on today in Miami, Florida, it kind of gives me the woolies there. Maybe she knew something that we did not. I kind of told her last month that Joe's going to get a job, but where he was, I could tell you less. But it's kind of, it probably put a grin on my cheek. So when she comes back from Florida, there, I will really wring her neck here. It's really something special. But Joe Quenneville, I've known him for a while here, and he's going to get that Florida team together very quick and in a hurry. He's a no-nonsense guy. Now, as far as the playoffs is concerned, I go with I say Tampa Bay and Columbus. I like Columbus a lot. I like Tampa Bay because they've been very dominant here, but I think Columbus is going to get one win out of the deal. The Tampa Bay is going to run home and get an early rest. The Boston Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs, I think that's going to be the most exciting series of all because I think Toronto has a heck of a lot to prove. Much of us think that Toronto should have been a better team than they were all season long. Again, I think they got a lot to prove, so I think Toronto's going to win that series against the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, boy. Capitals and the Carolina Panthers there. That's going to be a tight one and a tough one because, again, the Hurricanes, they play like we don't care what you think about us. We're just going to have some fun. And those are the worst people to play against because they got nothing to lose. If the Capitals win, it's because they put some mud and guts in this particular there. They're both pretty doggone good physical teams, and you let them be. I'm going to say the Capitals is going to take it's going to really be pushed to the limit of 7 games. They will come out ahead because they are the better team as far as records concerned. Moving down to the Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins, I see an upset. I think the Islanders are going to beat the Penguins. All the Islanders have to do is beat the Penguins up in their house. And that'll be the end of that doggone scenario there. And I think that can happen. I think Pittsburgh is a very good team, but they've been a very inconsistent team all year long. And I'm expecting an upset in that one there. Going down to the Western Division, ever since Subban got a girlfriend, Nashville has not been right. Okay? And Y'all know I'm telling the truth. Okay? Hey,
EJ.
but that's okay.
I love the quality analysis on this show. That's just money right there, boys.
but that's okay. You know, better with than without. But you know, Nashville and the Dallas Stars. I think that's going to be a pretty close series. Nashville will edge out the Stars in that particular one. The Jets and the St. Louis Blues. I am so sorry, gentlemen, here, and I love the Jets dearly. But I think the St. Louis Blues, if they come with their A game, they are going to beat. They're going to beat the Winnipeg Jets, and that's going to be the upset of the league this year. St. Louis taking over, and they're not going to go far as let me see, the fruition of representing the Western Conference. But St. Louis right now, the way they're playing, right now they got a very good chance to beat up on the Jets. I'm going to pick the Blues in that one. Calgary and Colorado. That's going to be a stinky one, too, there. I think Colorado has the juice to win. Colorado right now is playing very well. And I think it's going to be a close series, a very close one indeed. Again, Calgary will edge out Colorado in that one. And the final one, I think, is San Jose Sharks and Golden Knights. A lot of us think that the Sharks is going to be the overcast there in this particular one. But again, the Sharks have some experience from last year. And I think they love everything that went on last year. But good things to come to those who wait. I think the Sharks got good at a good time. I think they rest their players at a good time. And I'm not saying the end of the season was very grand for them. I'm talking about the Knights in particular. But the Sharks right now are rare, and that's going to be a pretty good series. I'm going to pick the Sharks, the edge, the Knights in that one.
EJ, we will save, maybe the best for last. We'll have to see how our predictions pan out. But your thoughts on the NHL playoffs, round one, starting here on Wednesday?
Well, I appreciate you calling me the best in front of everyone else. Now that they know that, we can settle we can settle the debate there. But anyways, I don't want to get too much into picking each series out. Okay, I think all of us have watched enough of the game that we could pick a side for either team in either series. I have two series that I'm really interested in, or I'll say three series that I'm really interested in watching right now. First one is being Las Vegas versus San Jose. That's a coin flip. And I think that San Jose has enough talent that they can beat Vegas, but Vegas is coming off of two successful postseason appearances. They've never missed the playoffs in their entire existence, which is something that's pretty cool. I think that you can coin flip either way. You should see San Jose come out on top of that series because I do believe that they have more talent on that team. So for me, that's the matchup to watch there. Obviously, Blue Jackets and Lightning. I think that's going to be more of a dogfight for Tampa Bay than what they realize. Blue Jackets do play good in their own barn. People forget when the Blue Jackets made their first real successful run at the postseason. That's when that "We Are the Fifth" line came out and all of that, and the fans really showed up. Columbus will fill the seats, and the fans will be there to support their team. And then the other matchup that I think is critical for one of these two teams is the Nashville-Dallas series. And the reason I say that is because Nashville has been so close in the last 3-4 seasons that they need to be able to finish the job and get themselves into a position to win the Stanley Cup. But I don't think that they're going to do it either. Now, do any of you gentlemen who remember who was in the Stanley Cup Finals 15 years ago in 2004?
Calgary-Tampa.
Calgary-Tampa.
There's my Stanley Cup Finals right there. I say Calgary and Tampa go back to the finals and play each other. I think that that's Tampa team that you had in 2004 with Vinny LeCavalier, Brad Richards, Martin St. Louis, all of those great guys on that team. You're going to see Tampa playing a similar style of hockey this year. Fast, finesse. They're going to shoot the puck. They're going to score a lot of goals, and they're going to find a way to get that. But I think that Calgary does have enough talent that they can put themselves into a position to get into a Stanley Cup final. I think Johnny Gaudreau is an absolutely fantastic player, and I love what Calgary is doing with that team there. I want to see a rematch of 15 years ago. I'm going to call it Tampa Bay Calgary final, and I'm going to take Tampa Bay in 5.
All right, gentlemen, it's already time for our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week before we go around the horn and get updates from everyone. Dave, we'll give you first crack, and then myself, Butch, and EJ. So Dave McCaig, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, sir.
I like to keep things as positive as possible. Even before I say that, I didn't predict a Stanley Cup final, like a Stanley Cup winner, because I don't want to say who I think it is because it might turn against all my bias, just in case anyone's kind of predicting. But I do think Winnipeg's going to come out of the Western Conference. I'm not going to say who I think is going to win the Cup because maybe it doesn't say the Toronto Maple Leafs beside it. But moving on from that, thumbs up and thumbs down. I got to go thumbs down here. First things first, obvious points, the Soo Greyhounds. I don't even know what to say, Scotty. Just, whoa. I don't know what to use for that explanation. I really feel that, they just absolutely crap the bed. That's probably the best way to really put it. And at the end of the day, the Hounds are coming back home to Tuesday, and they better smarten up. If they think they're going to win this series, they got to win Game 3. If they don't win Game 3, you may as well just not play Game 4 because that Saginaw team is looking absolutely unbelievable. Thumbs up. I'm going to go with a thumbs up for the NHL playoffs being around the corner. I just kind of want to keep it with that because I'm very excited for it to get started. It's the season that everyone waits to see. It's the unpredictable season. The hardest trophy to win in sports is the Stanley Cup. So I'm a firm believer of that. I'm sorry if anyone disagrees to that. Just at the end of the day, it's a lot of weeks to win that Stanley Cup, and it's all excitement. And I'm thumbs up for the NHL playoffs getting started.
Thank you, Dave. I have a thumbs down and a thumbs up on the same subject. And this weekend was the 1-year anniversary, for lack of a better term, of one of the biggest tragedies that we've seen in hockey, the Humboldt Broncos, and the bus crash that changed it franchise's lives and ended the lives of so many players, coaches, broadcasters, and just a horrible event that we talked about on the show, that anybody that's ever played hockey or been in sports and had to travel long distances. I mean, it was one of those stories that really hit home and hit not just the hockey world, but the sports world and both countries and really the entire world. There were 2 television shows that were aired over the weekend. I've only had a chance to watch one. TSN over in Canada had a very good show called 29 Forever. If you go to my Twitter page, snason2013, I tweeted the link to this broadcast, just showing how families had forever changed by this and showing the journey of those that survived and, some of those that had lost legs and, been, trying to go through rehabilitation. And then just over the weekend on ESPN, another documentary, I don't know if it was the same one from TSN, but it was called Forever Broncos, aired. I believe Wayne Gretzky narrated it, if not both, one of them.
It was wonderful.
I highly encourage everyone to watch that show, and it really puts everything in perspective. I mean, we talk a lot about sports and a lot of these, and we get intense, and and it really just kind of grounds you and just makes you think about what's important in life, and bring a box of tissues as well, because it's a very emotional show, and I just thought it was very well put together by both TSN and ESPN to show, obviously, how that community has rebounded, or at least still trying to rebound. They're never going to fully rebound by a devastating event like that, but I just really thought that those were both very good shows, and I highly encourage everyone to watch them. Butch Davis, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, sir.
Yeah, well, give some clarity to that particular subject you just mentioned there. TSN and also ESPN were jointly involved in that particular there. That's why we got the differences of the of the titles there, because the spins were both there, including for both countries involved in that there. So, and you got to give a lot of credit to also CBC and also a lot of the contributors up in Minnesota, as well as North Dakota, who had television crews and whatnot are going up there, getting information for families and friends. They were contributors as well. Very, very, very emotional type of program that, it gets you wondering that, when you think you got it bad, sometimes you look around the corner, someone has it worse than you. And to see that community help one another to get back in order. And it'll never happen to 100% kill, but again, to work together and take every doggone day as a special day, it's amazing. And I think we ought to kind of lift our heels and sit back for a minute and watch it stir. And get the family together, because conversation can go a long way with something like that there. All of us have been involved in one time or another of being away from our families or be in a situation where our families had to be very supportive with what we have left behind. And Scott, for instance, you've been in the military. Dave, you played hockey where you've been on traveling teams. I played baseball and football where I played in also in college where you're around for family or you depend on that family boost to get you going, to keep you going, or keep you from quitting maybe in sometimes chick form and fashion there. EJ, same thing. For a guy from Cleveland who messed around the doggone northern part of the United States and the country, including Michigan there, you know how it is some doggone time to be away and know that sometimes that boost from family gives you a whole lot of perspective in keeping things going. Let's not take that out of consideration. Let's not take that for granted. That is that's my kicker for this one. I have something bad to say. We already talked about the referees and officials in the NCAA and some of the crap they're putting off there. So there's my spiel there. There's my up and down.
Thank you, Butch. Let's go to EJ before we go around the horn one more time. EJ Russell, your thumbs up and thumbs down, my friend.
I don't have any thumbs down this week. I really do think it was a great week in sports. I will say that I did catch I had some trouble sleeping last night, and I woke up at about 2 a.m. this morning, and the only thing I could think to watch was the Forever Broncos documentary as presented by E60 and ESPN. And I thought they did an absolutely fantastic job, Scott. I watched that thing from front to back. In fact, I'll probably watch it again. I thought it was such a great film that captured the emotion and story of that. And I do believe that there was nobody more fitting to narrate that documentary than Wayne Gretzky. I thought ESPN put a ton of taste into that, and I thought it was extremely well done. All things considered, yes, it is a travesty and an absolute horrible thing that happened to those players. And I think that the one thing we need to remember is it wasn't just players that were affected. There was coaching staff, radio announcers, other faculty of the Humboldt Broncos that were affected by that loss. And I think that the entire story was very well told. I thought it was beautiful for what it had to be. It was all there. So thumbs up to ESPN, which is what I saw. Scott, you saw the TSN documentary. So thumbs up to both of those organizations for treating that story with as much class as they did. My second thumbs up for the day, for the week in sports, is that we got a national championship game tonight. Virginia versus Texas Tech. I understand that there may be other things that some people want to watch, but I think that deserves a thumbs up. And then I actually have a third thumbs up that I'm going to throw out there to the WWE, which is something that I don't normally give credit to, for having that all-women main event, naming a new champion, which is very exciting for that. So good for them. I thought it was all well done. WrestleMania was a success. So we'll see how the national championship game plays out tonight. We'll see how baseball continues to play out. And like you guys said, hockey season's coming to an end. Most exciting time in sports, NHL first round of the playoffs.
A lot of fun indeed, EJ. Let's go around the horn one more time. We'll be back at the Wicked Sister next Monday night. Dave's work schedule will allow him to get over, so him and I will be at the Wicked Sister along with Butch and EJ. Dave, games 3 and 4 at the Gardens Tuesday and Thursday. I don't think I'll be able to make it for Game 3. I will be there for Game 4. The Hounds in a must-win position in both those games, being down 0-2. What's in store for you as far as the Game Sports Show from your locations in Sioux, Ontario this week?
It's definitely going to be a different kind of week. I know last week when we just promoted this week's show, we thought potentially we can fit in all 4 shows this week. Obviously, we have the one here tonight, but 3 here in Soo, Ontario. It seems tomorrow from Icebreakers will be rescheduled. We're not sure if it's going to be this week or if we're just going to cancel this week till next week. Wednesday, we might have to reschedule as well. Might be earlier at 7 o'clock. If it's not at 7, it will be canceled as well due to yours truly having a Mayor's Cup game for the tournament. The Game Sports Show tied the first game against the other top seed Bucci's, which ties in the playoffs actually blows my mind. But anyways, the 2 top teams went at it, tied 1-1 in men's league. That's how good it was. So we have a tournament game, though, on Wednesday. So we'll keep listeners posted on our social media pages. But on Tuesday, we will not have a show this week. It seems Wednesday will be either rescheduled at 7 or won't be at all this week as well. And Thursday, since the Hounds are here in town, and that's when the Leafs are also playing, and there's a lot of stuff going on with the NHL playoffs, we will not be at Northern Superior potentially due to that going on. If we are, we will let listeners know on Wednesday or Thursday. So just listeners, keep a tab on the social media. We're going to keep everyone updated on the schedule this week as it is going to get pretty funky. I can guarantee that Tuesday and Wednesday will be canceled or rescheduled. Thursday will be to be determined. Either way, we will get you some show this week, despite if it's on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday for one of our locations here in Soo, Ontario, to get you fully updated on the local hockey scene and our thoughts on the professional hockey scene by the end of the week. So that's this week.
You can find those shows at thegamesportshow.com, and you can also find the Game Sports Show on Instagram and Facebook. Dave, we'll see you next Monday night, the Wicked Sister, and enjoy watching those playoffs. We'll have lots to talk about on Monday.
Sounds good. And I want to remind listeners, make sure you keep an eye on that contest giveaway we have both on Facebook and Instagram. All you got to do is comment a friend's name on both those social medias, and then your name gets entered into a chance to win free beer gift certificate from Northern Superior, free pizza and wings, free care package from the Superior Pro Shop, and potential bonus prize as well. So make sure you check out our social media pages for that.
Thanks, Dave. And let's go to Butch Davis. You can find his show, Butch On Sports, on his podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com. Or you can find it on our pages, thegamesportshow.com. Butch, you had a show yesterday. We posted that. What's in store for you this week, my friend?
We'll showboat it tomorrow on Tuesday. And then from there, I go surgery Wednesday for the other eye for surgery for that. I'm going to be taking a little breeze, a little rest or relaxation or recuperation time, as I say, for that particular surgery. There now be the end of the surgery, and hopefully I can, God willing, get back to 100% and give you guys hell in the cell there. As of right now, I'm watching Raw. I'm telling you right now what the basketball game's looking like here from here point on out there. But great show today, and again, got to listen to E.J. there on the thing there. When the Emmys are given out, you will see ESPN and TSN are one of the same. That's ESPN in Canada there. People don't know that, okay? But I'm just going to say it now. So when the awards are given out, those particular individuals from TSN along with ESPN are jointly going to receive trophies or commemoration on that particular subject there. It's very hard to mix one or the other. I've seen them both, okay? And they're both of the same merit. It's excellent to watch. Again, I recommend if you got a DVR or DSR or whatever it may be, or Do-Re-Mi machine, go and take go take a look at that particular show and join the family with it and have a conversation, okay? Because it is something that we need definitely to look at. It will change your way on how you look at your neighbor, your friend, and your pal, or maybe your enemy, okay? So, this life is too short, okay? Life is very too short. So let's do a lot better job and check out the show.
Butch, best of luck on Wednesday. You'll be in our thoughts and our prayers, and we'll talk to you next Monday from the Wicked Sister for our next edition of the game.
I'll be ready.
All right, appreciate you having on, and also appreciate this gentleman, E.J. Russell, on the hot seat, sponsored by Riverside Toyota. E.J., what's in store for you this week?
Quiet week, just happy to enjoy all the great games that are going on out there. Excited about the first round of the NHL playoffs. Hopefully I get to watch more than I deserve to. but always great deals going on at Riverside Toyota and Escanaba. A lot of great new car inventory to include the brand new 2019 redesigned Toyota RAV4. And, of course, always offering 105% Kelly Blue Book trade-in value on your trade-in. So if you need a new car, I got a guy over there that you can work with, but happy to be a part of the show. As always, had to give myself a little plug there just in case anybody needs a new car. But other than that, absolutely, I agree with Butch. Watch the Emmys. That's going to be something that you see TSN and ESPN be rewarded for, because I absolutely thought that the Forever Broncos and TSN's version of the same documentary were extremely well done. And I think that Butch nailed it on the head. It will give you new perspective on the way that you look at people, the way that you talk to people. And I thought one of the greatest lines in that entire documentary was, everything can change in one breath. Keep that in mind when you're talking to your friends, your family. Everything can change in one breath, and don't take for granted anything that you have.
Well said, EJ. Thanks to EJ Russell, Butch Davis, and Dave McCaig for joining us on this Monday night edition of the game. Again, our next broadcast will be next Monday night from the Wicked Sister for another edition of the game here on Eagle 95.1.
See ya.